remove the air box by disconnecting these two 8mm hose clamps. Slide the air inlet pipe out. Lift up on the back side to disconnect it from the top of the manifold to slide the air intake back towards you. The radiator hose connects underneath the bottom here, so take a crow's foot screwdriver, slide under here, twist it out. Sorry guys, it's like 10 o'clock, I'm kind of tired, so this video might be long. Slide this air intake out, slide it out of your way. Let's go ahead and remove all 4 of the spark plug wires from the coil packs. Just twist them and slide it down. Remove the 2 heater core hoses from this bracket. Slide them out of your way. Let's go ahead and remove that bracket. It's a 10mm bolt, or excuse me, nut. Slide it right off. Once you have that done, let's go ahead and disconnect the main connector to the coil packs. Next, let's go ahead and disconnect the wiring harness from the coil pack bolts or studs. I'm going to slide up on them just to get them out of our way. And then let's go ahead and remove the bolts. There's actually another one on the very back, but it looks like somebody else has already been working on this and it's already been removed. Once you have all those bolts out, let's go ahead and slide the coil pack up. Move it out of our way. Let's go ahead and remove these 4 8mm bolts holding on the valve cover. Just loosen them all the way out. Up, they don't have to come out. Once you have that done, let's go ahead and disconnect this air inlet connector here. Just slide that up and get it out of our way. Let's go ahead and remove our valve cover. Just grab on the oil neck here, slide it back and up towards you. Next, let's go ahead and remove all 8 of the injector connectors. You do that by lifting up on this white tab. Sometimes you need to use a little screwdriver to get underneath of it. And pushing on this middle gray clip once that's up and lift it off. Let's go ahead and do all 8. Once that's done, let's go ahead and remove this 10mm nut and these 2 10mm studs. Bolts. Take a 10mm wrench and get this last bolt. Slide this out. Disconnect your map sensor and slide your harness up. Let's go ahead and disconnect our throttle body. And our alternator connector. and take the belt off. With the negative cable disconnected from the battery, let's go ahead and disconnect this 10 on the back of the alternator. Let's go ahead and disconnect, excuse me. Let's go ahead and remove these two 15mm bolts. Slide these two bolts out. Take a large screwdriver, stick underneath the alternator, pry up a little bit on both sides until it comes all the way out. Let's go ahead and disconnect the harness for the Purge solenoid. And disconnect the hose by pushing the white clip up and sliding it towards the back of the vehicle. And that thing didn't want to come off. Disconnect the vacuum line from the brake booster by pulling it towards you, and then disconnect the harness from the sensor if it has one. Once you have that done, go ahead and remove the PCV hose from the back of the left rear valve cover. Let's go ahead and disconnect the fuel line. You'll need a set of fuel line tools. You can pick this up from your local parts store. You can pick it up on Amazon for about 10 bucks, 12 bucks. Slide your screwdriver underneath the retaining clip. Slide it up and out. Pull the hose towards you. Take your hose tool. Slide it on the line, slide it into the hose, slide the hose back, off the line, off the rail, excuse me. Once you have that done, there are 5 8mm bolts that hold this intake down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. Let's go ahead and remove all 10 of these 8mm bolts. Once all those manifold bolts are loose, you don't actually have to remove them out. Sometimes they can be aggravating to get out. You can remove them if you want to. Slide the harness out of your way. Pick up on the intake and slide it towards you. Try to keep as much of the harness out of your way as you can. Once you have the intake out, I really recommend taking a shop vac and vacuuming all this, as much of this trash out as you can. I know some people blow it, but I always feel like if I blow it, something's going to get down in the intake. So like I said, I always recommend using a shop vac to vacuum as much of this out as you can. Let's go ahead and remove the rocker arms. It's an 8mm bolt through the rocker arm. Take your wrench, or excuse me, your ratchet, and go ahead and break that loose. I always recommend breaking them all loose before you take any of them out. Especially if you're going to use air tools, because they like to round off if you're going to use an air tool. I also don't recommend using anything above a 6-point on these. Go ahead and pull all those out. Once you're done with that, let's go ahead and remove the rocker arm valve guide. And let's go ahead and remove the push rods. These push rods are all the same size, so you don't have to worry if you get them mixed up. Another thing I recommend doing while you have them out is put them on a flat surface like a table and roll them. That way you can see if they have any kind of bend or any kind of warp to them. Let's go ahead and remove the plug wires. Go ahead, and the way you get the plug wires off, grab it at the bottom, twist it a few times, and then it'll pull right off. This back one is kind of a pain. It's what I call getting into the job. Let's go ahead and remove the oil dipstick tube. There's actually a 15mm bolt right here. I thought I was recording, but it wasn't recording, so I already got that 15mm removed. You can pull on this thing and it will not come out, or you might fight it for 20 minutes. The easy way to do it, come in behind the bracket and just ease up on it and it'll slide right out. Next, we want to go ahead and take the exhaust manifold loose. I've already taken the bolts loose at the bottom. I didn't want to have to move the camera around so much to get that. So let's go ahead and remove them. There's 6 of them. They look like this bolt here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just take a 13mm ratchet wrench is the quickest way to do it, because that last one's going to be a pain in the behind. Let's go ahead and remove all 6 of these 13mm. Once you have all the bolts disconnected, go ahead and remove the gasket. And be careful, because that will cut you. It's like a razor blade. Grab this manifold and slide it straight up. Go ahead and remove this coolant bypass hose. and remove the two 10 millimeters holding the pipe down. And slide them up. When you slide them up, you want to be very careful because it does have two O-rings on this. You want to make sure you bring the O-rings with you. Because when you install your new O-rings, if the old O-rings are still on there, it will leak. Alright, let's go ahead and remove the head. There are 10 15 millimeter bolts in this head and 5 10 millimeter bolts. I'm going to go ahead and remove the 15 millimeter bolts first. When you remove these bolts, it does have coolant in the coolant system and it will leak. So make sure you have something to catch it underneath if you don't want it to get on the concrete or your carport. People can say what they want about Snap-on, but I haven't loosened these bolts. This is the 14.4 volt 3/8. It's a beast. All right, let's go ahead and move the tins. Okay, let's go ahead and get the bolts all the way out. Just make this a little bit easier. You're not going to reuse these head bolts. You want to replace all these head bolts. Let's go ahead and remove the head. Let's remove the head gasket. Please be careful when removing this head gasket. It is a razor blade. Okay, your lifters are under these lifter guides. There's two 10 millimeter bolts holding each one of these down. Go ahead and take those tins out. Grab this lifter guide. You're going to be replacing these guides as well. These are your active lifters, your 4 and your 6. Go ahead and remove your non-active lifters. I hope I didn't say injectors on that last one. Because you're going to want to put these all back together at the same time. Once you have everything out, just a word of advice. These bolt holes will fill up with coolant. If you put the new bolts in these bolt holes with this coolant, there's a good chance that it won't sit all the way down and get to the right torque. So you're going to want to make sure that you take shop air or some kind of tool and get the air, or excuse me, get the coolant out of these bolt holes for the head bolts. Make sure you also clean the coolant out of these heads, or off these pistons. You don't want to crank it up with coolant on top of your pistons. The reason that I'm doing this job is because I had a skip on the number 6 cylinder. The reason I had a skip on the number 6 cylinder is because this AFM lifter is collapsed. You can see the difference between this lifter and this lifter. This is a good lifter and this is a bad lifter, a collapsed lifter. It was causing a skip on the number 6 cylinder. I'll be replacing this number 6 AFM lifter, and I'm also going to replace the V-loom, just in case it's a problem with the V-loom controlling it and causing it to collapse. When installing the new lifters in the guide, these AFM lifters have a slot on them, and they'll only go into the lifter guide one way. So go ahead and slide these lifters in. Now these, it doesn't matter which way they go in. They go in that way, or you can flip them around. One thing you want to do is you want to roll them. Make sure there's no pitting on the old ones. If there's any sign of pitting, you want to go ahead and change them.